Hey, this is Jim Katsoulis with another Program Yourself Thin weekly lesson where we're going to talk about mastering your desires. And we start with a quote from Napoleon Hill that the starting point of all achievement is desire. And some quick notes I just want to go over real quick. This lesson really is inspired by two books, primarily Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And we're going to kind of co-opt some of the ideas and apply them to weight loss and health. And the other book is Alan Carr's Stop Smoking book. And again, I think he calls it Easy Way, Stop Smoking. So the Think and Grow Rich part is about increasing our desire, and the Alan Carr part is about decreasing our desire. So, simply the desires that you have are unconsciously driving your behaviors. And a lot of times I think when we think about how we're going to behave differently, we just think about our willpower kind of stopping ourselves. And so kind of metaphorically, it's like we have our desires this goes back to the bottom up, top down approach. So bottom up is these desires we have, these cravings we have. And a lot of times when we think about eating better or being healthier, we think, okay, these desires are going to come up and I'm going to rely on my willpower to keep them down. And what we want to realize is that we can actually influence the desires, go right to the source, right to the core of it, and reduce them. And so if we can reduce the desires, we don't have to rely so much on willpower. And it's a much more comfortable, natural way to create change. So, real simple, and this is kind of obvious, but to reduce unhealthy behaviors, we want to reduce the desire for it. And to increase our healthy behaviors, again, the flip side of that is sometimes we want to do healthier things, but there's not much desire for it. And so again, we rely on willpower to get ourselves to do it. But we can go to that kind of core again and increase the desire. And so when we decrease desire for unhealthy things and increase desire for healthy things, it just makes the whole process a lot easier. And finally is the idea that consistent exposure strengthens desire. And this is really important because sometimes we think to ourselves, well, the desire I have for unhealthy foods is just natural. That's just how it is. But it's not. We're constantly exposed to it. And so that is what is strengthening the desires we have. And this is good news because it means if we can control our focus and we can expose ourselves consistently to certain messages, we can naturally increase the desires that we want to increase that are going to support us. You'll understand more what I mean in a moment here. So we're going to start by talking about decreasing desire. And again, this is straight out of Alan Carr's Easy Way system. So in his book, he's talking about cigarettes, but he refers to a nicotine addiction, the physical addiction part of it, as the little monster. And he refers to the mental addiction, the big monster. We'll get to that in a moment. So when we're talking about eating better, we're talking about the little monster. We're talking about the physical cravings that we have. And so the first thing we want to do is if you reduce the amount of hyperpalatable processed foods that you're eating and drinks that you're drinking, then you're going to naturally kind of reduce the cravings for them. Okay. And so this might seem really obvious, but I think it needs to be kind of put out there that the less you consume of these types of foods, the less you're going to crave them. And so I like to use a phrase called cravings on layaway. If I eat a bunch of sugary processed foods, I know that I'm going to crave them in the future more as opposed to if I didn't eat them. Okay. And so this is just one more way to think about it. So if you're ever kind of struggling, I don't know if I should eat that or not. One more thing you kind of put on there is that, well, if I eat that, I'm going to have to deal with even more cravings later on. And so again, we can bring this right back to cigarettes. It's the cigarettes that cause the craving. If you're a non-smoker, you're not fighting cravings all the time. You just don't have any. And even smokers, as they become non-smokers and they stop smoking and the nicotine leaves their system, the little monster kind of dies. The actual physical craving for it disappears. The mental craving is a different thing. We'll get to that in a moment. So again, we want to reduce hyperpalatable processed foods as often as we can because it's just going to make it easier and it's going to reduce the desire we have for them. The next thing we want to do is we want to calibrate our palate. And what this means is we want to put healthy foods into our body. And so again, I like to suggest that you think of your eating in two separate ways. There's avoiding unhealthy foods and there's eating healthy foods. And so when you think about eating healthy foods, again, healthy unprocessed foods and drinking water, what these do is they calibrate your palate towards more natural flavors. And so that again is going to help you because it, again, if you're only eating hyperpalatable processed foods, that's what becomes the norm. That's what you begin to crave and that's what you want more of. as you eat healthier unprocessed foods and you drink water, you kind of cleanse your palate and you get yourself used to eating that type of food. Okay. And as you continue to eat that, you literally will start desiring and craving that. Okay. Because that becomes the norm and it gives you a feeling that you start to like the more you do it. The next thing we want to do to reduce desire for unhealthy foods is to reduce stress and to get quality sleep. And both of these are kind of, two sides of the same coin here. When our bodies get stressed, we naturally desire unhealthy foods. When we're not getting the proper amount of sleep, our bodies crave unhealthy foods. Why is this? Well, when it comes to sleep, our body needs energy, and our body knows the fastest way to get a spike of energy is to eat sugar, refined grains, processed foods, because again, it spikes our blood sugar, and our body gets that quick burst of energy. But we don't want to rely on that. So the more you can relax your body and reduce stress, and the better your sleep gets, the less desire you're going to have for unhealthy foods. Okay. And in addition to that, with the sleep part of it, is that your brain also works better. So again, they call it the executive functioning aspects of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. It's able to make better decisions. Okay, when you're getting proper sleep. So sleep really is a secret weapon when it comes to your weight and your health. So now let's shift over. Okay, we talked about the physical part, how to reduce that. Now let's talk about the mindset. And this is the big monster, right? This is definitely the bigger part of the whole thing. And so the first one is to begin to wake up from the brainwashing. And I literally mean this. As a hypnotist, I always thought that, when I was going to become a hypnotist, I would be hypnotizing people. But it's more a process of dehypnotizing people, waking people up from the brainwashing, waking myself up from the brainwashing. And so specifically, we need to see through the marketing. And I say billions of it, but it really should be trillions. We have been literally exposed to trillions of dollars of food advertising in our lives. And it has an impact on us, okay? So we need to see through it. How many ads have you seen where they're linking some hyper-palatable junk food to fun, excitement, youth, energy, right? All this stuff. And so it's been a whole lifetime of connecting those two things together, and it does have an impact, and it does increase desire. So we need to see through that marketing and realize what these foods really are, and to see them for what they are. And so there's a number of ways to do this. A good one I like to do is, again, just simple, read the ingredients. I'm a big fan of reading ingredients of junk food, of hyper-palatable foods, because once you realize, that's one of the best ways to see through the marketing, because you get past the packaging that looks good, then you get into what's in this thing. And you can't pronounce half this stuff, and the stuff that you can pronounce doesn't sound that great. So as you see them for what they are, that helps you reduce the desire. Very similar to how we see cigarettes now a lot of times, right? So cigarettes already went through this process where at one point they were seen as being really cool and all this, positive stuff. All the movie stars were doing it. And now we look at cigarettes and, most of the time we think, okay, it's cancer. It's really bad for me. It's cigarette companies, which we don't like. And, they're using these shady techniques. Well, guess what? These processed food companies are doing the exact same thing. And to be honest, it's literally the same companies as they have their start in. So what we want to do is we want to see these foods for what they are, which is unnutritious addiction packages, meaning processed food literally has one goal in mind, and it's to get you addicted to it, not to satisfy you, not to nourish you. It's to get you addicted to it so you get more of it, so that you finish it, then you start to crave it again. You go out and buy more of it, you consume it, you crave it, and it's a vicious cycle. That's what it's there for. Now, of course, you don't have to stop eating it completely, right? This isn't an all or nothing thing, but you need to see it for what it is because, again, the food companies are just like the cigarette companies. They don't care about your health at all. All they care about is you buying their product. And so I think sometimes when you start thinking of it that way and seeing it for what it actually is, kind of cleaning the lenses of your perception so you can see that these foods are manipulations. They don't care about your health. It's not helping you, and they just want you to buy it. And sometimes that can help decrease the desire. The next thing we want to do is to tap into the effect that these foods have on you now and over time. Okay, and so I want to share with you 3 ways to do that. The first one, and this is the one most of us think about, is the physical effect. And so the interesting thing with physical is that typically when you eat a bunch of junk food, the physical effect isn't really the strongest, right? You may feel kind of full, you might feel kind of, bloated or lethargic or whatever, but typically, you can eat a bunch of junk food. It's not going to just instantly change your weight. It's not going to change your mobility. It's not really going to do too much of your energy or your comfort. Where it starts to get interesting is when you start looking, okay, if I continue to eat this food for another year, what's the effect on my weight, mobility, energy, comfort going to be? And it gets extra interesting when you say, okay, if I keep this up for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, what is going to be the effect on my weight, mobility, energy, and comfort? And it's not good. And we know this. So it's up to you to start thinking in these time frames. And again, to almost re-hypnotize yourself or wake yourself up from the brainwashing to see these foods for what they are and what they do to you. Okay, you're not lying to yourself. You're being honest. And you're seeing what they physically are going to do to you. The next one is mental. Okay, and this is where it gets interesting because physical takes a little while. That's one of the things that makes weight loss a challenge, is because you can eat really well for a while and, the results may not be as fast as you think. You can eat crappy for a little while and you may not put a bunch of weight on right away. Okay, but we know how the story ends at the end of the day. But when it comes to mental and emotional, I'm going to say in a second, these effects are instantaneous. Okay, so these are the ones I want you to start to focus on because, again, the mental and emotional part is the one we don't really think about a lot. And if you do, it's a real source of motivation, okay, and it's definitely a source of decreasing the desire for these foods. So mentally, when you think about a time when you've eaten some junk food, maybe you finish that ice cream, right? As soon as you finish that ice cream, how do you feel about yourself, right? Your self-image, your self-esteem, right? Are you seeing yourself as a strong, healthy, successful person, or are you saying the negative stuff to yourself? Are you seeing yourself as less than? And the thoughts as well, right? Again, what are you saying to yourself, right? Every time you do it. And so, again, we look at that instantaneous, you're going to get some of that negative, effects mentally. And then if we go 5 years of me continuing to eat this way, what is the effect going to be on my mentality, how I think about myself, my self-image, and the thoughts that I have running through my head 20 years from now, okay? And again, all this stuff's true. And the more you think about it, the more decreasing of desire you're going to feel. And then finally, it's emotional. And again, this one's instantaneous. The second you finish that bag of cookies, that bag of chips, the ice cream, what feelings does it create? Right? Typically, there's feelings of shame, guilt, frustration, anger, all those negative emotions. And again, that's instantaneously. Then you start accumulating that over a year, accumulating that over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And it's depressing. It is. It's sad. It feels crappy. Again, eating it sometimes is okay, but when we're addicted to it and we feel constant desire to eat this food, it doesn't feel good. It affects us negatively physically, mentally, and emotionally. Ultimately, that's what our life is. Okay, and so when we look at things in an honest way, you're going to find that your desire goes down. Absolutely. So let's kind of shake that off a little bit. Let's talk about increasing desire, right? How do we increase our desire to want to eat better, to want to live healthier? So I want to share a quote from Think and Grow Rich that Napoleon Hill puts in there. Wishing will, and again, I've kind of co-opted this for health and weight loss. Wishing will not bring success. Desiring health with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, then planning definite ways and means to realize it and backing those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure, will bring health and allow you to achieve your goal weight. Okay? And so I love this because right off the bat, there's got to be a distinction between wishing and deciding. Okay? Wishing and desiring. There's a big difference there. And so you got to be clear, are you in the wishing phase or are you in the desiring phase? Because desiring is a lot stronger. Wishing it's the same story day after day. Desiring health with a state of mind that becomes an obsession. Obsession is not necessarily a bad thing, okay? I think sometimes we get off track because we know people that are just crazy obsessed with their eating. They can never eat the wrong thing. Or people that are obsessed with exercising or their health, and it's like they can never take a break. But that's one version of it. Maybe that's not so good. What I would suggest to you is that our obsession is not with health, it's not with weight, it's with quality of life. And I think if you're obsessed with your quality of life, that it's hard to go wrong, okay? And that obsession is certainly going to help you with your health and your weight. Planning a definite ways and means to realize it and backing those plans with persistence is absolutely crucial. We know that. But here's the key part, which does not recognize failure. And this is an important point because we can't fail until we give up. And so what we want to do is when we have setbacks, when things don't work out the way we want to look at it as feedback, Okay, so as long as we keep looking at its feedback and we tweak what we're doing and correct it, then we're still on the path of success. Okay, and we can't fail until we give up. Okay, and so if we continue to do that, we'll get the health and you'll get the goal weight that you want. So I want to bring you through 6 steps to turn your desire into reality. Again, this is straight out of Think and Grow Rich. The first step is to fix in your mind the exact weight and health that you desire. Okay, get very, very specific with it. Step 2 is determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the body that you want. Now, again, I'm going to give you a sample statement in 1 second here so you can kind of see that. But, after you watch this video, I would suggest pausing this screen and doing these 6 steps. It is a game changer. So, again, you want to determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the body you want. And we got to give something up if we're going to create a change. Establish a definite date, right? You intend to possess the body by or the health by. Again, this is so important, right? We need to have an end goal. We need to have a final point that we're reaching towards. It's very important. Create a definite plan and begin at once, right? Start right away. Write it out, a clear, concise statement of the previous ones. Again, I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And then read your statement out loud twice daily, right? Waking up and bedtime are the perfect times to do that. And as you read it, this is the key part. As you read it, see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of that body. Okay, and so this is where you give yourself permission to really imagine and feel what it would be like. The more powerfully that you can do that, it creates desire. It absolutely does, because very rarely do we do this. A lot of times what happens with weight loss is we say, okay, once I lose the weight, then I'll feel confident, successful, attractive, whatever it's going to be. And I can tell you, absolutely, that's not necessarily the case, because I've worked with so many people that have lost the weight, and then they put it back on. I said, well, what happened? You lost the weight. How did you feel? I felt like a fraud. I didn't feel like myself. It just didn't feel right. And so we want to start right from the beginning, feeling the feelings that are going to support us. And so give yourself permission to really see, feel, and believe the body that you want. Okay, the body, the health, the feelings that you want to have in your life, day in and day out. And if you do this, what happens is every time you read this statement, you start to feel these feelings. And what happens is you start to increase the desire and literally almost get like addicted. That's what I want. And what happens is you increase the desire to feel those good things. And that is what overwhelms the desires for the crappy food. Okay. Again, it's pleasure versus pleasure, right? The whole goal here is that we're moving towards something more pleasurable in the food. It's a key point. So the sample statement here, right? I'll weigh X pounds and be a size X. There's a line there because if you're a person who doesn't care about, weight or the size clothes that you are, then you can absolutely go, well, I'll have a strong, lean body, by exact date. I will suggest that strong, lean body is okay, but it's not definite enough. So I would rather see if it's strong, I'm benching X amount of pounds. I'm so flexible I can touch my toes. So again, the more definitive you get, the more powerful this will be by exact date. In order to accomplish this, I'll stop snacking on healthy foods at night. I will drink water and eat salads every weekday. I'll get at least 8 hours of sleep every night and use the extra energy that gives me to exercise 3 times a week. Okay. And so again, this may or may not move you, but it's just a sample of how to do it. When you input the things that matter to you, it's a very powerful process here, because again, it activates, your body and your mind every day to really get into that state of what you're moving towards. And the more you read it, there's something magical that happens. When you read this out loud, your brain craves certainty. And there's a very strong impulse in all of us as social creatures to live up to what we say. And so we're really tapping into something very deep and powerful here when we do this. And so I suggest that you try it out and do it. Now, let me mention, right? Some people say, I don't want to put an exact date. What if I don't reach it? Well, if you don't reach it, it's okay. Okay, because I promise you, if you do this every day, and if you're off by a couple pounds or you didn't quite reach your goal, so what? I promise you're going to be a lot closer to it than if you didn't do this and you didn't set the date. Okay, and remember, there's no failure. There's only feedback. And so we can absolutely, change this and fix it as we go along. But I promise you, writing it out and reading this every day is going to be very, very helpful to you to increase that desire to move in that direction you want to move in. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Hey, thank you for watching this training. I hope you enjoyed it and that you got a lot out of it. As a thank you, I want to offer you a gift to help you jumpstart your weight loss today. And it's a custom self-hypnosis session called The New Thin Me. And you can download it for free at programyourselfthin.com/session. And again, it's completely free. You'll go there, you'll answer a couple questions, and you will get a session that is customized to your situation to help you get fired up, to get motivated, to do the things you need to do to really get the body and the health that you truly desire and deserve. So again, I want to thank you, and you can get that session at programyourselfthin.com/session. Have a great day.